Everything I say and the exact words I use are all for a reason. It's all behavioral psychology. And most of it's related to finance. It just doesn't seem like it. When you ask where someone's been and you ask what you do and don't like, they're telling you what they want to buy.
Welcome into Impactful Conversations, stories and lessons for financial advisors. I'm your host, Dave Edgecombe. We've got yet another good one. And John, when I saw you on the docket coming in to do TV with us, I said, we have got to get him.
You immediately got sick and called out, for work and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, didn't work out. Here I am fighting through it, but I'm here because I know we sat down previously with you. The last time we sat down with you for our masterclass series, it was so good we got a cease and desist letter for it.
You got to love that, right? That is a testament to how well we do something. If we get a cease and desist, we did something really, really right.
We pressed a button. We may have pressed some wrong buttons, but we're going to try and press some of those right buttons again today because what we talked about back then was overcoming client objections.
Sure.
And I think that's your sweet spot, among other things. But I know that you spoke so eloquently about it and kind of put us at the closing table with you, which I think is so valuable for young advisors, but really all advisors to kind of get a glimpse of what you're able to do and how you kind of approach it. When I went back and watched it, one thing that stood out to me was you used the phrase ask probing questions.
Absolutely.
Why is it so important to ask those probing questions right off the top?
Yeah, if you think about it, no one really wants to come in and be what I would say grilled by a highly successfully trained sales machine, which is really what a lot of financial services is, right? You call the Merrill Lynch or the Edward Jones, and then you're basically thinking they're going to try to sell you something. And if you think about that, that is really uncomfortable. Very few people are going to come sit in your office unless they have a reason. The question is, do we know what that reason is? You just need to ask. The very first thing I ask anyone when they come in the office, and it's very, very simple, say, hey, what brings you in? And they'll say, I heard your radio show. It's like, awesome. How long have you heard it? They say 6 years. I'm like, what on earth made you decide to come in now? 6 years. It's like, my guy isn't doing what he's supposed to do. What is he doing? How's that going? What does your CPA say about that? They are going to tell you what they want to buy. They don't care anything about us, and I'm finding out everything. I'm armed. They're about to arm me with how I can add value in any number of different places, right? It blows my mind. And even some of my young guys, they want to go right into, hey, here's what I know, and here's how good this stuff is, and look how great this is. And that's all fine and dandy. But if you don't know what the client is actually coming in for, it doesn't do you any good. So I have a rule to myself. I have to discover in the first 3 minutes, not talk about myself one single time. I have to find out in the first 3 minutes what exactly brings them in. What are they actually there for? Because they'll often just tell you straight up. He's like, hey, I'm not happy with my guy. Oh, really? What's going on? I lost a ton of money. It's like, if you don't mind me asking, how much did you lose? Because they may say on $1 million portfolio, they lost 25 grand. Okay, that lets you know a lot about them. When they say, I'm down 45%. He had 100% of my money in NVIDIA, in WoW or crypto. It's like, ooh, okay. So, and then you follow that up, not by saying anything. Here's what we do. No. You just basically say, well, how did that make you feel? But what do you want to change about that? Are you not going to wait for it to come back, right? You just want to know because they're going to tell you exactly what they want to buy. And that's the path of least resistance. Then you have to just ask yourself as an advisor, can I offer that? I mean, is that something I do? Am I good at that? Can I add value? Because if you can, that's a slam dunk.
Is it the difference between pitching a product and selling yourself?
The funniest thing is that I don't think I have ever talked about a product until the client has already signed over the papers to give me their entire life savings.
Really?
It's probably been at least 9 years. I don't ever talk about product. Product does not matter. Process matters. And the whole thing is that the advisor should be the product. It should be that trust and understanding. We should be great listeners. And that's the whole thing. So many people want to prove, here's what I know. Here's what I can do. Look at all these sequence of return charts. Look how these investments have done well. Look how you can have very limited risk, but still have some great upside. That's all good. But the whole thing is that even what the client's looking for? Often no. The client is looking to either calm their fears, get more communication, or to understand what they have. Now think about how easy it is to do those three things. But that's what their current guy's probably not doing.
You're getting a glimpse of it right now. The podcast is The Retirement Solution with John Hicks. You're on YouTube as well with J. Hagan Capital, I believe.
Correct.
Is the handle. Just a snapshot of just why I was so excited to get you in here. Before we talk overcoming client objections, I kind of want to get sort of your state of the union with the sort of questions that you're getting from clients and prospects in 2025?
Yeah.
Just, in a snapshot.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's what we know. A lot of people were happy about the administration change, right? But what we've seen is a tremendous amount of turbulence and volatility. It's expected. As a matter of fact, if you look at Trump 1.0, the exact same thing happened. The market went up and then it went way down and then it finally went up and started to sustain that. So the greatest thing that we can tell people is I know it is a little uncomfortable. We've seen it before. It doesn't mean it's going to look exactly the same, but I bet it rhymes a little bit, right? So, and then, the truth is that, and we have to be realistic about this, is, we've kind of had a 12-year run up. 2022 was a little bit of a gyration because interest rate movements. It wasn't the market so much as interest rates. Now we're probably in a situation where we need a real correction. The question is the things that Trump is doing, are those going to be positive and avoid that at the moment, or are we in tune to probably get what we should have, which is about a 40% downturn? If you look through the middle of March, the market was down roughly 8.5%. Should it go down further? Well, Robert Schiller says up to 40%. Now here's the question, right? So regardless of if that information I just gave is accurate or not, doesn't that make you realize why clients are spazzing out? It's like, dude, I'm going to retire next year and I wanted to pull 4% or 5% from this and I have no idea how to do that. Well, and so you ask the question, well, what other income stream are you going to have? Social Security. Okay, awesome. Tell me about your pension. Don't have one. Tell me about your real estate. Don't have one. Tell me about your Airbnb. Rent out your lake house? No. See how those are very simple things? Those are probing, but you're just trying to find out in that you want to get them to the point that say, man, I don't have any other income sources. It's like, okay, that's an easy fix. But okay, I get that. How would you like to fix that? And you hope they say, that's what I'm here for. Now they've invited you to say a little bit about what you do, right? So when people are coming in and scared, we just want to find out why. I get it. It's simple. If it bleeds, it leads, which basically means that most media is built on fear. Fear makes people react. So, one of the things, and I've watched people do it, and I did it in the earlier stages of my career. I used fear to kind of motivate them to do things. Now, I don't feel like I have to. I just tell the truth. I was like, hey, there's going to be a lot of volatility. NVIDIA was down 48% at one point in time this year. It may and should probably rebound. But what if it does like it did in 2000? It took 3 years to fall apart, and then it took 8 years to get it back. And then what happened? 2008, and it did it again. So if you did that when you retired, unfortunately, you'd run out of money. You want to fix that. And then the question is, how do you want to fix that? And you hope that the client says, that's what I'm here for. Good. Who else are you talking to? But the one I like more is like, well, what's your current guy doing? What's he doing? Sleeping at the wheel? I mean, it's not, I get it, but like, what do you want to do? You're also going to find out there's people that want to be able to call you on your personal cell phone, every single week.
We talked about this earlier.
And I don't take those people as clients. I promise you, I don't care if they have 8-figure accounts. It does not matter to me. My time is more valuable than that, to be someone's babysitter. So, it really comes down to a lot of things, but you have to really ask yourself, what is it that you as an advisor, what do you want to get out of your business? You shouldn't be a product salesman ever. Because that has no value. There is no exit strategy. Your business has no value once you're gone. The real question is, how can you build valuation for an exit strategy? You hear all about these private equity companies coming in and paying multiples for businesses. So if you did $3 million of EBITDA last year, they really may write you a check for 12 to 15 million. You still made your income last year, but they're going to potentially give you an exit strategy. That's pretty good. Now, if you're only out there hawking investments and you're not actually building a business, and if you're gone, there is no value, does that have an exit valuation? I wouldn't pay anything for that.
In that scenario, what do you say to your clients?
When what?
Like when you mentioned the bigger firms kind of coming in and swooping it in, and you get a nice payday as the advisor, but you also have clients that you've been kind of...
Yeah, I mean, that's always an issue. And frankly, a lot of the deals that I've seen, they'll actually keep the person they're buying out on for 3 years and pay you a salary to run your own business until they get all of the things in place and educate those clients on the new system. And most of these guys, that I've seen, whether it be some of the big firms or like a UBS, I've seen several buyouts from Morgan Stanley and Merrill Lynch, Ceteris, and some of these guys, they want your asset base, but they want to make sure they're doing it correctly. If they can't add value to those people, they're not probably going to give you the offer. But unfortunately, I just see so many people, the way they're building their business, there is no exit valuation. There is nothing left that anyone wants to buy at the end. They've sold people a whole bunch of products, and they didn't actually solve any of the problems. Doesn't make them bad advisors or bad people. It just means they don't have a sellable business. And that's what I'm always working on. Hey, I don't need to make any more money this year per se. No, am I going to lose money this year? No. Are we going to increase over last year? Yes. But do I need that? No. What I need to do is figure out how do I put that in the back of my exit strategy? Because I would really like to have a nice big check one day when I decide, hey, maybe I'm kind of done with this. Or maybe I've got great advisors and they can do it for me and I get to be the new Ken Fisher who actually maybe likes annuities as opposed to hates them, right? I could be the new Ken Fisher. We need a fresh image. The guy looks like Walter Matthau with, anyway, I'm not going to say the rest of it, but it is what it is.
We get the picture you're painting.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're helping me out because you're transitioning into annuities for me. And I know that when we sat down for our masterclass was the objections that you get, some of which were about annuities.
Sure.
And fun story. So my mom is retired and I was grilling her a little bit because I'm a big shot. I'm working adjacent to the financial advisor. I know a couple words.
Sure.
I said, well, what's your guy doing now? Is he asking about annuities or anything like that? Oh, I heard annuities are bad. And I took me back to our masterclass because that was one of the objections that you ran through. So I hear annuities are bad.
Yeah.
What do you say to that prospect across the table from you?
A lot of them are. A lot of them are absolute trash, and you should never even look at them. So the question is, and here's what I always say, if an advisor is talking about that the first or second time you meet with them, that's probably not the right advisor for you. They're probably pushing product. The thing of it is, though, is if you look at a quality fixed, just say fixed, a quality fixed annuity over the past decade, it has outperformed Vanguard's flagship bond fund in cash rates. So the question is, if you would have ever owned one of the greatest fund managers of our modern era and owned their flagship bond fund, this is probably better. And often the client does not have to pay you to own the annuity. You get paid by the insurance company as opposed to Vanguard. So I literally would just set it side by side. And I never say it's an annuity. I'm going to say, hey, here's what Vanguard can do. Here's what a bank can do. And here's what an insurance company can do. Which one are you more interested in?
Yeah.
You show a CD, you show a fixed annuity, and you show a bond fund. Well, Vanguard bond fund loses every time, especially over the past 5 and 10 years. So the whole point is that when someone says, I heard they're bad, it's like, well, if it's pitched wrong or if people don't understand it's a product, it's a part of the portfolio, it's a big deal. When someone comes to see me, I don't really know what they're going to go into. They're going to tell me. Really what their comfort level is. If it would have been a bond, we use bond alternatives. Those would potentially be annuities. They could be equity-linked CDs. They could be structured notes, principal protected notes. None of it matters to me because I look at every client as, hey, I'm hoping to make about 1% a year off of our relationship. Because if they go into my assets under management, I make roughly 1%, 1.5%. If they go to the annuity, if I do, for instance, a 5-year product that pays me 5%, I make roughly 1% a year. So it's all kind of a moot point. It's all very equalized. So that being the case, it's very simple. And my guys understand that in my office. It's just like, hey, we're going to get 1% a year off this client. So make sure that they're a good fit, right? Make sure that you're saying the right things. Because we never need, if you're only getting it 1% no matter what you put them in, just put them in the right stuff. It's not complicated. It's actually the easiest thing in the world.
Do you hear a lot of prospects potentially say that they're scared about tying their money up in one thing, and that's one of the detriments to an annuity in their eyes?
If you think about it, if you put your money in a mutual fund and it goes down 30%, you pull it out, that was stupid. That's a 30% penalty. If you put your money into a fixed annuity and you want to pull out in 2 years, you know exactly what you're paying to get out, whatever the surrender charge is, right? So I don't believe in anything that has a time frame that's going to throw them off. A 5-year product, by the way, if any advisors out there looking at the rates, 5-year product rates are pretty stinking good. And I have never lost a client ever once because a 5-year product didn't work the way that we were hoping. Because it's just part of the plan, right? So what I tell them, hey, every year if there's a better opportunity, we're going to pull 10% out. And then we're going to allocate it. If we want to buy NVIDIA, 40% off, let's do it if you want to add more risk. If we want to get a structured note or a bank thing, because what you're doing is when you're pulling it out of that annuity, you're actually increasing their liquidity. And they're not having to pay you anymore on the other money that's in there. So it's never really locked up. And the secondary part about the locking up thing, in my opinion, is like, well, did you need all your money tomorrow for stuff? I mean, it took you
got something you want to share
58
with
years.
me?
Yeah, it took you 58 years to go from 0 to 1.7 million. How much of that 1.7 million do you think you're going to need tomorrow? Let's assume the roof goes bad for 40 grand and your daughter needs a car, another 40 grand, 80 grand, and the hot water heater blows up, there's 10, so we're not 90,000. You need a down payment on a lake house. There's another 200,000. So we're talking like 400 grand on 1.7 million, man. So what difference does it make about the rest? And that's everything blowing up at once, right?
Yeah. That's
right?
Worst case scenario.
So that usually isn't going to be the case. But you just, again, tell the truth, let them understand, because as soon as you calm their fears and they see the value in sage advice, they're probably going to clamor to you. It's not really much of a close.
Is the do-it-yourselfer a nightmare to try and convert necessarily?
Not in my situation. So I don't deal with engineers only because how it works matters a lot less to me than the fact that it will work. My time is more valuable than explaining to them what I literally have 3 master's degrees. I don't lord that over anyone, but I took the time and energy and effort to do all that. I don't need to explain it to you. Either you're looking for help or you're not. Now, if it's a do-it-yourselfer who's there to pick your brain, then that's different, right? But do-it-yourselfers, I just find out that they don't know what they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah,
they're unconsciously incompetent. Those are easy people to win over. Mm-hmm. That's why you ask, well, what are you currently doing? Well, what made you decide that? And they will
show your work.
Yeah. So, and what you'll typically say is, I believe in Vanguard. It's like, I absolutely do too. Do you use their models or do you build your own? Now, what are you looking at that for? Are you looking at standard deviation? Are you looking at income structure? Are you looking at downside planning? What are you considering? Drawdown maximization? Or drawdown minimization? What are you looking for? And they kind of give you that blank stare.
Yeah.
Sometimes they know what they're talking about, but often they don't. It's like, it's really amazing. So did you own any of those bond funds, in Vanguard to have a balanced portfolio over the past period of time? Well, yeah. Well, I just mentioned a minute ago, almost any fixed annuity is beating the 10-year number for the Vanguard bond fund. That's a pretty easy thing. It's like, well, because if it gets to the point, it's like, listen, it sounds like to me that you love shooting for the moon on your growth-oriented investments. Keep doing that. How much can you not afford to lose? Or how much do you need to derive income from? Just let me deal with that part. Because I feel quite confident that I'll still probably get close to equalizing or beating that Vanguard bond fund over time. Probably.
You still are the owner of one of my favorite things that I've heard an advisor say is, my job isn't to make you rich. My job is to make sure you never go poor.
That's 100% it. If an advisor actually understands that, that is the entire culmination of what a retirement planner should be. A lot of guys in our industry, in our space, they want to act like they're money managers and asset managers. They want to tinker around and buy stocks. That is the lowest paying profession in the managed money space. If you want to be an asset manager and you want to manipulate investments, those guys do not get paid very well. If you want to be an asset gatherer, those names: T. Rowe Price, Vanguard, Charles Schwab, Fidelity. Those guys are paid exceedingly well.
They market too.
Right. And so, and so it all comes down to that. So you really have to just really ask yourself, is it because you want to feel smart? Because the smartest thing you can do is to actually solve the client's problems, right? I have never gotten 10 more clients because I got them 3% more on their investments. But I have gotten multitudes of clients when the things crap hit the fan and I can look at them directly in the face and say, you still have a 100% chance of retirement. As a matter of fact, like I told you, we can turn on your income an extra 2 or 3% right now if you want to. Do you know what that does to someone?
Did it
require any real intellect or any real skill? No, it does require to have a system and stick to it and be honest with it, right? It's like, I don't control the market. If the market goes up and we're in the market, guess what? They're probably going to go up. And if the market goes down, hopefully we have those safer sided assets that don't fall apart. So at least they can pull the income from when they need it when things are weird, right? So where most of us add our real value has nothing to do with the investments we put people in.
I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyways because I think I know your process a little bit. But when it comes to I need to check with my spouse.
Yeah.
I get
why is she not in the appointment?
Well, and I think that's what I picked up from our masterclass was that 9 out of 10 appointments that you're doing, both parties are present. Like if they're getting to you, they're both there, kind of thing. But rewind the clock a little bit. I mean, what would you say to that scenario? I got to check with my spouse.
It started a while ago, but one of the greatest things about TV and radio and kind of how they work is you do have a little bit of a localized celebrity, right? And there are other people that do it. Don't get me wrong, but you have a little bit of a localized celebrity. I never wanted to use it to have an ego. I used it to make them do what I wanted them to do. So never will I see an individual person unless there's a specific reason that we can overcome. For instance, it's a physician who has to do appointments at a certain time frame, and his spouse really hates this stuff. Like she has no interest at all. Plus, she's going to be at a tennis camp. Okay, so maybe I'll do that, but I'll let them know I have to have all of your statements and anything that we're going to be talking about before you come in for the very first appointment. You can't bring it with you. That's just how it works. Because if you don't get their buy-in, it also lets you flex some of that, that little bit of celebrityism, right? Lets you just say, hey, if you want to meet with the boss, then that's cool. but like no one would allow, that doctor would not let you come see him without filling out all the forms before he sees you and meet with 3 people first and talk to the clinic and da-da-da-da-da-da and blood work before he's going to analyze anything.
Yeah.
Come on now. So we should do the exact same thing. Learn from the people that have had that I'm not going to say ego, but have had that,
that elevated
culture,
status, I guess,
culture
right?
of status, right? Because that's what TV and radio do. They give you that opportunity. Now, once you get them in there, you got to do the right thing, which is always what leads me to say, don't go sell product. Find out what they need and find out if you're willing to give them what they need. You'll be paid a lot better.
In no way am I admitting this in our conversation, but I do want to know, because you had a lot of information and I know you're a really smart guy. Do you ever see the person that you're sitting across from and their eyes start to glaze over and you feel like you're losing them and you say, oh, I need to scale back with my approach right now. I need to not dumb it down because I hate to say that, but do you ever notice that moment?
Not over the past 6 or 7 years, because I'm not talking about me ever. I'm asking them questions. It's hard for them to not be engaged if they have to answer a question. If you think about it. So the way mine will typically go, they sit down and ask them, hey, what brought you in? Yeah. They say, hey, we've been a little disappointed in our guy. No kidding. What's going on? Tell me what they're doing. How are you currently invested? It is impossible for them to check out on that. Right.
Yeah.
And my job is really a psychologist. I'm reading their body language. I'm probably, if you really wanted to say I do anything on a daily basis, I'm a very well-paid marriage counselor. You can read a female's body emotions very much like you can a man's, and you can see who's actually, because it's not always the guy. It's not always the guy that's very interested in the investments. So when you read people, I just ask the other person the same question. It's like, Ms. Smith, do you feel the same way? Because here's my guess. 8 out of 10 times, it's going to be a different answer. It's like, well, Rick Rick's mad because we haven't had good performance. I'm mad because he never takes my call. It's like, oh, no kidding. How do you mean by that? Like, do you call often? It's like, no, I only call once a year and he never gets back to me. Well, that's an easy fix.
Yeah, okay.
Holy moly. So
now
it's like, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. Now, what does your CPA say about it? Well, most people don't have CPAs, and if they do, they're not talking to them with regularity. They're aggravated. They got to spend $800 on that tax return. They don't want to call them and have to be, billed hourly. So they never do that. So there's like, oh, what did your CPA say? And you have a will, you have a tax attorney also though, and then an estate attorney. And the point is you're just asking them questions they don't have answers to. Now, my firm, we do all that.
Yeah.
The only thing we don't do, we do not do tax returns. We do tax planning. We do, we have, tax attorneys that do that. We want to make sure that when they come in, if we know what they want, we can do it or steer them the right direction. But to answer your question, coming back to the glaze thing, it is very immersive. Their experience is very immersive because I want to find out, what do you really want?
Yeah.
Because I don't believe in divorce personally. It happens, but I don't believe in it. So if I'm going to get married to this person, I want to know that I'm going to be with them for the next 25, 30 years. That's the only way I really make money. Because remember, I get 1% a year. So I got to keep that client for 6, 7, 8 years sometimes for me to make as much as some charlatan working on the back of his Prius, selling junk. But I know that guy's not going to be in business very long. The problem is he's probably put them in something I can't unwind easily and get the client in the right spot.
Now I need Jason to cross off charlatan on our bingo card. We didn't think we were going to get that one in, but
that's a triple letter score on Scrabble.
Do you love uncomfortable moments when you're in? Are uncomfortable moments a good thing?
I think so. I mean, when you say uncomfortable, like what'd you have in your mind?
Well, I think about the spouses.
Yeah.
And hearing the husband's answer and then asking, is that how you feel, Mrs. Smith? And seeing the differences.
The thing of it is that most people will neglect someone in that room, and that is absolutely uncalled for. There's no reason not to do it. They're coming to you as a singular client, but those are very different people with different needs.
Yeah.
And if you can address both of them, promise you, if you talk to the person that's a little bit more put offish or standoffish or fearful or skeptical, you just close the sale. 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
If you go to the person that never is like, well, Bill takes care of this, it's like, oh no, that makes total sense. He seems to be really in tune to all this stuff, and frankly, he's done a pretty good job for you guys. But what keeps you up at night? I know that you had to commit to come here too. What do you want to see different or changed, or what would allow you to feel good? If anything happened to him, who would you go to? And honestly, it opens up a complete, it's like, well, no one actually ever asked that before. It's like, do you have kids that would help you? Does your CPA do this? The reason I always hit on CPA is because most financial advisors run away from that. They don't want another person that's potentially that's going to dissuade them, the client, from buying what you're trying to sell them.
Spending, doing anything really.
But if you go the other way around, like my whole thing is like, no, I want to know what the guy's saying, because chances are they don't really have one, or they don't have a good one. And we give them a good one. Whether it's with us, or I'm like, hey, actually, you got a small business. You need to be using one of these 4 or 5 firms. These guys are good. They understand how we do our tax planning structure, so that we're going to pay maybe a little bit more taxes now, but in the long run, you're going to save hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And it's always good to have those people that you can talk to in your community, because those are other pillars of influence. No, they'll never give you a referral, ever.
But
You'll never get a
going in,
referral from these guys. So don't get all hung in your head. You're going to get referrals.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that it's another person that when they understand what you're doing, if you do the right thing, they're gonna be like, no, John's team, they know what they're doing. If you're talking to him, you're probably in good hands.
This is probably a bad, well, not necessarily an inappropriate parallel, but when someone meets with you and they already have an advisor.
Love it.
Why? Well, I want to know how you help them break up with their advisor.
I never even bother. What I just simply ask him is how's it going? What's he doing? Does he believe in, is he a value investor like Benjamin Graham or Warren Buffett? Does he believe in tactical modeling? All this stuff. They never know the answers. I was like, awesome. So, what does he have you in? 80% of the time it's mutual funds. So, the guy's double dipping. He's typically charging a fee and putting them in mutual funds. And I don't even talk about that. I just want to know where they are. And I'm like, you're probably fine. But as I look at it, the one thing I'd say is that your guy's just not very efficient. Think about how powerful that word is. Am I saying not good? No. Am I saying he's terrible? No. Am I even acknowledging he's done some pretty good stuff? Yeah. But he's not efficient. Why? Because I guarantee you it's not maximized for the lowest cost. It's not maximized for the best tax structure. It's not maximized for the most income. And those are all things we can do. So that's why we ask, do you know what he's doing? What do you want done? They're about to tell you. What do you really want? It's like, if I could give you, and I would look at their statements for the very first time in the situation and say, doing very quick math in my head, if I could give you an extra $38,000 more a year of income than you're currently taking from your portfolio with total liquidity, and actually decrease the risk, would you spend it? Now you're going to find out, are they a spender, are they a saver?
Oh, I thought I had your next question, and you zigged when I was zagging.
So the greatest thing about that is, what did I just do? I just shut the door on their current advisor, because he's never once to ask them that.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is, it doesn't matter to me if they have $600 million when they die, or they die nearly penniless, as long as they live the life they wanted, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's 2 ways you can go through it. You can either try to be the richest person in the graveyard, and have, I've got $1 million today, John, I'm going to retire when I have $20 million when I'm dead. It's like, well, that's probably not very efficient. If you want to give it to your kids and grandkids, why don't you do it while you're living and enjoy the gift? Yeah. Do your giving while you're living. Yeah. Now, that's a very different thing. That means that we need to maximize our tax structures, gifting things, look at trust allocations, use an eyelet on the back end to give any money left to them completely tax-free. If you say you want all this money, my question is, who's going to pay the taxes on that? Now, here's the point. Their advisor's not talking about that. But all you got to do is simply say, what do you want to maximize? Because the biggest question is, and I do this every single time, if you could have an extra 38 grand, would you spend it? Now, this is why I say you have to warm up to both of them. Yeah. Because one of them is going to go, absolutely not. And then you're going to hear the other one just go, excuse me? I am tired of staying at the Ramada Inn in Biloxi, Mississippi. I want to do the Mediterranean River cruise that Rhonda and Ted did. You promised me this, you absolute beep, beep, beep. And here's the thing.
You're sitting there quietly. Just
I love it. I love it. I smile. And if I'm in my chair, I lean back, but usually I'm standing up against the door jamb. Yeah. And I'm just kind of taking it all in. Because what I'm about to find out again is where the real problems are that they're probably not even aware of. Yeah. And by going through that process, now I know there's no reason that they need to turn this $1 million into $3 million just to say they have it. That's ego and stupidity. That makes no sense. She needs, in this case, it happens to be she needs to feel like they're doing some things. So now it's just like, oh my gosh. So what you're saying, so collectively you're saying that you wouldn't necessarily always spend an extra 38 grand. But what if we created a travel budget of, let's say, 25,000 for the next 3 to 4 years? It is meant to be blown. If you don't spend it traveling, then redo the kitchen floors, put a new screen porch on. Rent a lake house for an entire summer and invite all your kids who are spread out all over the United States to, when they can, finally come hang out with you, do some boating, do some fishing, teach the grandkids how to do something. And people you just changed their mind. You just went from a left brain to a right brain structure. And I like to put my finger directly on that part, and I like to massage a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now it has nothing to do with product. It has nothing to do with finances. It has to do with, hey, you did really well. How do you want to maximize this? What do you want to maximize? Income, fun, gifting, philanthropy, charity? Or do you really just want to see it grow, 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 grow?
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, let me show you a bunch of other stuff in your budget you probably need to cut. And then they realize real quickly, that's kind of dumb. It's like, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you use the word efficient. I think I hear intentionality with what you're doing, questions that you're asking, and the positions that you're putting yourself in when you're at the closing table.
Everything I say and the exact words I use are all for a reason. It's all behavioral psychology. And most of it's related to finance. It just doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
When you ask where someone's been and you ask what you do and don't like, they're telling you what they want to buy. If you ask them what they want you to do, now they're no longer envisioning their old guy because they think that that's part of the problem. I want to build a huge wedge between their current guy and them, because you were talking about DIYers. Are they tough? One of my big things I used to tell people is, hey, if you have an advisor, I promise you, I can teach you how to do it on your own at Vanguard by yourself and save everything you're paying that guy.
Ooh.
And I did. And do you know how many people actually DIY'd it? 3 out of like 117. My staff has the actual numbers, but out of 117 people, out of 117 people, 3 people took me up on it. All the rest of them either came with us or they didn't make any changes at all. How crazy is that? Because that's a value proposition. Hey, if you think that what I'm giving you is worth it, go take it. But if you realize, man, that's a lot of effort. I don't know that I really want to go through the tax codes like that. I don't know if I want to do bracket management and do asset shifting and do strategic distribution based on what my assets actually perform. I don't know that I want to do that. What do you cost, John? I'm roughly 1% a year. Some of your money I get paid by the other company, and some of the money you pay me an advisory fee. Most people pay a little bit less than 1% all in. It really depends on what you want.
Well, I got to be honest. I feel incredibly validated right now because I'm so glad that we sat you down here and picked your brain just a little bit. And I know that you've got so much more to provide, but I wanna tell you this while I got you here. I was speaking about you to another advisor, and I said, "Oh, we shot a masterclass with him, and what do you know about John? Oh, John, he's smooth." That was the word that described you.
Was it Billy D. Williams? Smooth like a Colt 45.
Sure, if that helps.
Yeah.
If that
Lando
helps.
Calrissian, you gotta love that.
So, John, once again, thank you. J. Hagan Capital is the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
The Retirement Solution is the podcast. I was watching that Lainey Wilson interview that you had on the YouTube channel that we did at CRS last year. So there's lots of good stuff on there. This has been Impactful Conversations on our Impact Partnership YouTube channel. If you're looking to grow your practice, house rules, selling with stories, all great resources, and they're right at the click of your finger. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.